All right. Good evening, everyone. We're live with our first EduMatch Connect. Thank you so much for joining us. Sarah, I'm going to ask you to help me out if people join and do whatever, but I want to welcome everyone to EduMatch Connect, our first one. I want to state the topic. The topic is, I'm going to mix this up. It is AI for educators beyond the basics. All right, we have a couple of guests over here, our panelists, I should say. And first, I want to welcome you for joining us. Please invite more people if you have the opportunity. Let's talk a little bit about EduMatch. EduMatch addresses the problem of educator isolation by creating spaces for deep connection and collaborative growth so that educators can feel a sense of belonging and continually strive to master their craft. Okay, my name is Desmond Hasty. I'm the EduMatch Community Director. Our panelists, let's go. I don't know if you're top or left or right, but I'm going to start with Sarah, the order in which you folks came on. Dr. Sarah, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you because I'm going to mess something up, Sarah. So go ahead and please introduce yourself.
Okay, absolutely. Well, hello everyone. Thank you all so much for watching us. My name is Sarah Thomas, and I'm founder CEO of EduMatch. Also, 22 years in education, spanning from first grade all the way up to 12th grade, and including masters in ed tech program and central office for a long span of time. Super excited. AI is definitely a topic that I'm very interested in. So thank you so much.
I'm going to move on to, it's not fair just to let Sarah introduce herself, Dr. Sarah, so I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves if you don't mind. I'm going to go with Rochelle next, and then Mr. Troy.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Rochelle Dene-Poth. I'm a I stopped counting the years, long-time educator of Spanish and French and a technology course, also a consultant, attorney, and author. And I actually started to do research about AI back in July of 2017. So it has been very interesting to see the things as they've unfolded. And I'm excited for this conversation and thankful for the opportunity today to learn from everybody.
All right. Last but not least, Troy Long. I'm a director of CTE and grants administration, longtime CTE advocate, CTE student, teacher, et cetera, to this point now, which is very interesting what we're doing. We're also, my district, we currently wrote the AI curriculum for the state of New Jersey, so I'm really excited about that. That's a little nugget to get us started.
There you go. All right, absolutely. Congratulations on that. So I'm putting in as comments, our topic again is AI for educators beyond the basics. And let's get started, if you don't mind. So I'm a former educator. I forgot to put that caveat. In addition to being the community director for EduMatch, I try to ensure everyone is engaged, networking, and just keeping fresh and relevant. And since AI is on the forefront of our minds, no matter where we go in the classroom or just in throughout our discussions outside of the education spectrum, AI is the forefront. So AI for educators beyond the basics. I don't know much about it, but I hope to learn from panelists and some people attending this discussion. So let's get going, please. The first question I have is, what's one way educators are understanding AI? What's one way educators are underusing AI right now? And you can chime in at any time, anyone. I would love to hear all of your voices.
Well, I could jump in. I'll get it started. Well,
Thanks,
the
Troy.
underusage for me on a school level, we're K 9 through 12, is that they're just using it as a search engine. They're not using it to its full capacity. They're using maybe 5-10% of it. They don't know how to use the prompts correctly. They allowing the students to outpace them because they're being very scared to implement AI because they think it's going to help students cheat. But we always use the phrase, AI is not going to take your job. Those that know how to use AI is going to take your job. So you need to know how to use AI.
Well said.
And I can chime in on that too. So it's interesting in the work that I've been doing over the last X amount of years, but more specifically since ChatGPT came out, the initial concern was the kids are going to cheat. I'm like, they were cheating back when I went to high school. Like that, there are bigger issues out there. And I think that often, and I was like this too, where as primarily a language educator, sometimes you think that you don't fit into, like, if you're not a STEM teacher, you're not this kind of teacher, or you put in the wording like and you don't see the relevancy of it. I think people are not realizing, and those that I've worked with over the last couple of years, they're not realizing the potential and the opportunities for it. And I'll give you an example, and I've told this example so many times, is I did a training back in the fall of last year, and in the group, there were maybe 25 educators, 10 of whom had never used ChatGPT, Gemini, any of them 3 years out after the launch. And walking in, one of them said to me, "Are you doing the session?" I said, "Yes." "Well, I have no intention whatsoever of using AI." And I went, "What are you going to do for 3 hours?" And she had this bag full of things to work on. And so we had a conversation, and I said, "Well, there have to be challenges. There have to be things that you're just like, I've taught this so many different ways. I need new ideas, or I want to do something different, or the kids aren't connecting with it." And I gave a long list of things, like almost like a checklist. And I said, there's something there for everybody. You just got to figure out what that one thing is and start there. And for her, it was glue sticks, because the kids couldn't remember to put the caps back on the glue sticks. And I showed her all of these things that I could create just with ChatGPT. And she was just like, it was the wow factor. And I think that often people, from the work I've done, I've been working with schools across the country, I think a lot of times people see it as it's just for, and like it's one thing, but there are a lot of other things you can use it for that. It can do lesson plans. Yes, it can personalize learning. It can generate all of these different things, quizzes, and it can write emails. But at a higher level, what are things that we can use it for to really support students, but also to give us time back that we can spend with our students with our own kind of learning? And so it's not just like a quick, like a switch off, but at a higher level, how can we actually use it to really save time and do more, make a bigger impact?
And I agree with what both of you have said. I feel that a lot of times people are using it at a very surface level, just to maybe generate a worksheet and moving on. But the bigger opportunity is to use AI as a thought partner. Like I can only begin to tell y'all how much it has leveled me up in such a short period of time. But there's so many different things that you could do with it. Like, for example, you could have it, you could give it an assessment that you're planning to give and ask it, where does this have bias or accessibility gaps? You could talk through a lesson before you teach it. You could anticipate where students get stuck. There's so many different things. So, the highest level of utilizing AI is helping it help you, to borrow the words of Jerry Maguire, helping it help you to reach your maximum potential, or to approach it.
That's good. The bias, all great responses, and it's got my mind. I have to stay centered and moderate, but my mind is racing. Like, oh my goodness! Like, I'm totally guilty about the search engine stuff. Like, I mean, and hearing the bias. One of my challenges as an educator was to differentiate and ensure that the accessibility was good for all students of all learning abilities, and not presenting a bias, and for differentiation is a really good way to leverage your thought partner, as you're saying. Thank you so much. If anyone can chime in for comments for our audience, I will definitely field those in a little. Moving on to the next, does anyone have any questions, clarifying questions or statements before I move on to the next one? All right, I just want to be mindful of the time. I feel like I'm under pressure with the time, but we're good. This is a good chat going on. The next question I have, what does it look like to use AI to enhance student thinking instead of just completing tasks faster?
Okay, I guess I'll start this again on the school level. some of the things that we could do, like, so I always have the English teachers worried about them going to cheat and do the paper. So we could use AI as a sentence starter for them, or paragraph starter, so you could build upon that and then have them write in the classroom on a piece of paper, so you know that it's not coming from the computer generated. So it's ways to leverage the AI. It'll help you with your research, but you have to be mindful in the sense of, after a while, it'll start to tell you what you like. So, for instance, if you're on Chat GPT, you got to make sure that it cites sources. So you may want to use a different search engine if it's going to give you what it thinks you want. So you have to be careful in terms of that. But the teachers have to understand how to leverage it for their benefit to get the students thinking, because sometimes the students just get stuck on that, or they don't know how to do it. So AI can help them, along those lines. That's the easiest way that I can see it working. So
Good. Thank you, Troy.
And I'll say, give you an example. Actually, it's hard to believe it'll be, well, it's 5 years now ago, because we are mid-May as we're talking. There was a program that we did in Pittsburgh it was called Belong in STEM. And it was open to students in 14 different school districts in this cohort run through one of the branch campuses of Penn State. And we had some people come in 3 Saturdays in May to talk about augmented virtual reality, one on artificial intelligence, one on coding. And then in the summer, and it was kind of funny, kids want their summer off, but there were 4 days in July, and the kids came in, and it was funded by some different organizations in Pittsburgh. And they came in, they still continued to learn about those topics, but then they had to focus on the Sustainable Development Goals and choose 2 or 3 which really resonated with them. And then they had to figure out how could AI be used in a way that could potentially present a solution to those challenges that are faced around the world. And these kids really didn't know each other. They formed groups, and throughout the 4 days, we had speakers come in. And, they coached the kids, but then at the end of it, we had this open showcase. It was open to the community, the families. The kids had their own big screen. They presented their solutions to it. And it really gave them, I almost wanted to cry on the last day. And one of the kids said, "What do we do tomorrow?" I go, "Well, it's Friday. You stay home." He's like, "But I want to come back. I want to do this." But it got them to really think at a higher level. And there's the benefits and there's the negatives when it comes to AI. Of course, a lot of the concerns when I've spoken, especially with students, has been around the impact on the environment, for example. But when you do things like that, you also think about, when students, I gave a history example. I said, okay, you're teaching about this event that happened in history. So use ChatGPT, use whatever your tool is of choice, and have it create something that has a lot of errors in it. And then you get the students to read through it. They have to really critically think. They got to collaborate, communicate, problem solve, and break it apart to be like, you know what, that's the right year, but that's the wrong event. Or that's the right event, but that's the wrong person affiliated with it. And so then they're breaking down, they're building all of those skills that they need, and they're evaluating the information to see if it's accurate or not, because we know a lot of misinformation, of course, and bias and all those things that could come up whenever you generate something with AI. So there are a lot of opportunities where you can actually take it to the higher level. And it can be, some people feel like me as an educator, I feel like, oh my goodness, this is another thing. But these are quick things that you can do, that you can prompt and just level it up a little bit, and then see what the kids do with it. And then you can always kind of tweak it to, something else, but engaging them in something where they have to really analyze, justify something, reflect on what they've read. I think that makes a really big difference for them when it comes to AI or any learning experience that they have.
I feel like Rochelle and I are sharing a brain, because you just shared an example I was going to give, but just to extrapolate on that. There was a time when I was with a colleague delivering a presentation on AI to high school journalism students. And one thing that we did that reminded me of what Rochelle was saying is that we actually we took an article, a real article from the web, but we had AI kind of make it less accurate, and they had to fact check it. They had to, see what made sense, what didn't, how did they know that this could be credible or not credible. So definitely that. But just kind of circling back to the question, how to enhance the student thinking. So I think that students, the same thing I said about us as educators, using it to level up to get us to, towards our higher potential, students can do that as well with AI. Like, for example, if they were to write an essay, then they could have the AI challenge them on certain points and refine it in that way. Or they could play devil's advocate to their example and find points that they may have overlooked in their essay. So there's a lot of different ways um, that students would be able to use AI to also help level themselves up. And the point is that we are all learners, whether we are looking at our students or we're looking at ourselves as educators. Like, generative AI is relatively new, not as new as most people think, but it's relatively new. Like, AI has been around forever and a day, but the generative part, the generative AI, I would say, like, what, maybe a little over a decade. Is that give or take, maybe? So we're all learning. We are all learning, because this just kind of came and changed the world. And fairly recently has it gone mainstream. So we are all learning.
Well, thank you very much. I'm learning through this chat. The reverse engineering is a big deal in terms of like feeding AI something wrong or having students analyze where it's wrong, kind of like a scavenger hunt of ELA items and things. My brain is like racing as I hear these responses, and I appreciate that. Moving along to the next question. Some worry AI can limit creativity or critical thinking. Do you agree or see it differently? I guess, how do you agree or see it differently? It's a good question.
Well, I guess I'll keep up with the theme and go first from the
Appreciate
school
it.
level. For me, it doesn't. Well, I feel like the phone itself, it causes them to, stop being creative and thinking critically, because they're such in a rush to go to look for these sources instead of thinking for themselves. But that's where it goes back to our previous question, where we use AI properly so it could get them to, all right, now let me use it as a starting point for this. All right, I'm gonna do my research based on that. Where can I go to get more information? You could use it as a research tool to then take it a step further. That will help out students more. But on the surface level, a lot of things that we're doing with, the AI, the phones, et cetera, it's causing them to not communicate properly. So they're not able to articulate what they need to do, because their first reaction is to go to their phone to try to get the answer instead of thinking for themselves. So the teachers have to now take that AI knowledge. So what we do on in our school is we make sure we're training the teachers how to teach with AI and how to utilize AI, so they can be comfortable. So now they can pivot and make sure that the students are doing more than just the surface level stuff. Because once you dig deeper, you find out that it's so vast and so much that they could get from it. And once they get into that level, that's when their eyes open up and they really get excited. And then it goes to a completely different stratosphere there. So,
Thank you.
Should I go next to follow this?
All in order.
You're gonna stay in order.
All right, because Sarah knows I'm always like, you know what, I will fill in. The attorney part of me, my brain, like, I've been doing a lot of reading and research and working with educators and listening to students and having the great opportunity to talk with students about AI and how they're being taught about it or not being taught about it, how their teachers are using it in the classroom. And it's really great to really, build my awareness, but also for me to share that story. And I to one extent, I agree, because depending on how an educator, and I'm an educator myself, how you're using it, like if you're just going back to like Sarah model, like, oh, I have a worksheet now, I just put it digitally, like it didn't do anything differently. But you have to take it to this higher level. And so I think about some of the conversations that I've had with students, and if students are simply going and like looking things up and they're submitting this work that's been generated by AI, then of course that's not helping them to be creative or developing critical thinking skills. There's no student agency. But I also wonder, what was the task that they were assigned? So if you flip that and you think about, okay, what are we assigning our students to do where it's causing them to question whatever the output is, or to look at something like, you know what, this is inaccurate, I got to revise it, or to defend something and reflect also on what it provided, then it can also boost that. And it can be something simple, because a lot of the concerns that I hear are from elementary educators who are concerned, especially with screen time being such a big focus now recently, is you don't have to involve the technology. It can be conversations. It could be an image. So younger students put an image on the board that a teacher used to generate or generated with AI, and ask kids to talk about it, to write about it, to whatever, turn to a partner, and to evaluate and break it apart. Like, that can be something that's really different, that can then build those skills for creativity or to critically think about something. And it can be something, again, that's so simple, it doesn't take a lot of time. And it's not where it's like, okay, we're done with this. It's like you can continue to build upon that. And so it's not like a definitive answer, but it shouldn't ever be thought of like a shortcut. It's like a starting point. So give them something they really have to analyze and break apart and make a decision on something, and so that they can understand when it's accurate, when it's not, and how to use it to enhance and not replace their learning.
Yes, indeed. So definitely agree with what both panelists said. And, just like Rochelle said, then I can definitely see what people are saying when they say this. OECD called it cognitive offloading, if I'm not mistaken. And also Dr. Scott McLeod has a vicious cycle of AI, where one possibility, if done incorrectly, the teacher would generate the assignment with AI, the student will do the assignment with AI, the teacher will grade it with AI, and then nobody learns anything because there's no human in the loop. So when used inefficiently, then I can definitely see that, it could limit creativity or critical thinking. However, as both panelists were saying, then the key is is in the design. Because if you think of a calculator, for example, if you look at it the same way as a calculator, then it could be a shortcut to math, or it could help you reach like higher levels that that it would take forever to do on pencil and paper. So AI does work the same way. And it can help to stretch the student thinking, or it could shrink it, if the students are just going and having the AI do the assignment and turning it in. Just like how I remember maybe 10, 15 years ago, some of my students would try to be slick and go on Wikipedia and copy it and turn it in. Same thing. So we definitely have to look at how we're designing the assignment to make sure that it could be augmented by AI, but not, totally just gamed by AI. And another thing that we need to know is that parents also need to be in the loop when it comes to this kind of thing. I recently did a webinar with NABSE about AI for parents, and the families are the ones who are going to set the tone when it comes to our students and how they are approaching this work. So they set the first tone for how kids approach these tools at home.
Thank you so much. We're rounding out the last question here, which is, what's one next level way an educator can use AI tomorrow beyond basic tasks? So, subsequent to this discussion, hopefully people can grab something and say, you know what, I'm going to try one way beyond the basic way tomorrow using AI. So, floor is yours, Troy. Bring us home.
Okay.
I was ready to do a switcheroo. I was be like, you're off the hook.
Go ahead.
There you go, Rochelle. Let's switch it up.
Let's switch it up on the last one. Go ahead.
I probably shouldn't have done that. No, now things that I think of, whatever platform, whether you're using one of the ChatGPT, Gemini, one of the large language models, or you're using an educationally based platform, there are a lot of options there, like your lesson plans, your emails, the structured templates and everything, which are great. Because one thing I hear from administrators is, the number one thing I've used AI for is those emails that I got to write because I want to make sure they're right. I want to analyze the tone, but they're all, very simple. And I think about what is the next level? Like you ask, okay, so looking at my classroom, if I'm curious about the students in my classroom and I want something really specific to them, or I'm teaching a new lesson, maybe instead I take whatever I'm using in terms of AI platforms and I say, okay, I am, you are a whatever teacher, you assign it the role, your persona, and you are teaching students about this topic. What are 5 common misconceptions, misunderstandings that students might have? And what are some questions that I could ask to like push their thinking or something to that regard? Because then, you might, because you might have taught it for a long time, like me as a longtime educator, you might have an understanding of what prior students misunderstood or areas where they were more challenging. But just to have that other thought partner, because we talk about it as a thought partner a lot of the times, other things like depending on the content area and the grade level you're teaching, attaching it, making those real world connections. So seeing it outside of the classroom and the applicability and thinking like, oh, I'm a science teacher. Okay, so how can I use AI? What are ways that AI is being used in science, in healthcare, in business, in these different areas? And then give me some ideas for lessons that I can bring into my classroom to not only teach students about the content, because I want them to love the content, but also because it's important to help them develop those AI literacy skills as well. And so those, for me, I think are a little bit more higher level because they're not just doing those tasks, those clerical tasks that we have as educators. They're helping us to really think through some things that maybe we don't identify initially, but we can take and we can build upon and then go back to those templates to really build something out.
Okay. I'll go now because I don't want to forget what I was thinking. My old man brain. So when she started talking, it made me just think like, when the teacher does a class at the end, they always do an exit ticket. So you take your what you had planned for the day. Now you got all this data from the exit ticket. Now you could use AI to say, all right, help me write a better lesson so we could review the stuff that my students missed the next day. So now you took it and made it meaningful. So that's the type of immediate feedback that, a teacher being able to do for the next class for that. And then take it to another level for an educator. Let's say you get your observation with your administrators and they give you all of these points that you need to, hey, I want you to do this, integrate this, whatever. Now, you may struggle in thinking, well, how can I do this? Now, this is where you have your thought partner AI help you based off of your evaluation rubric. I'll throw the rubric in there, the responses I got from the administration, and like give me some suggestions of how I can do this stuff. So those are 2 quick ways that an educator can now utilize AI to help them out in their practice on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you. Make me want to go back into the classroom now.
Don't you rush on that one. You're working
Bring us
more
home,
powerful
Sarah.
on this end. You're doing powerful work on this end, sir.
Oh, man. So I love all of these ideas that y'all are dropping. Y'all are dropping these gems. And speaking of gems, y'all like that segue. That's that's one that I was thinking of. So a lot of, depending on what model you're using, then a lot of them will have you give you the opportunity to create something, a set of directions that's repeatable. So that's why I mentioned gems, because Gemini does they call theirs gems. On ChatGPT is called custom GPT. But if you give it a custom set of instructions so that it will remember and you don't have to keep typing in every time, then you could use that. So that would be one thing. And the other thing I would say, just kind of a personal point of curiosity. I'm not sure exactly how it will shake out in all roles in in education, but I have my eye on agentic AI right now. Like as a business owner, then I'm seeing the potential of how this is transforming my daily task. And I know that there are implications as well for education. I just have not figured them out yet, but it's coming down the pike. I know that in Google Studio, then there's like some things that you can do to clean up your inbox, things like that. But yeah, there's a lot going on that is coming down the pike. So I'm excited. I'm gonna stop talking because I know we're at time, but this is cool.
Well, as I go back to watch this, I'm gonna take some notes about the gems that you guys are dropping. I want to thank everyone, Dr. Sarah, Dr. Rochelle, and Troy for being our panelists. Everyone who was out there that watched the stream or may watch the replay, thank you for that. I wanted to end on a positive note for next month's topic. Of course, is AI. I'm going to switch it up one of these times, but next month our topic is AI in the classroom, fear versus curiosity. Again, I thank everyone, all of our panelists. If you have any last statements, Sarah, you were monitoring the chat. Are there anyone that we can shout out in terms of audience participants?
Yeah, definitely. Hal was saying that he's using a lot of our arguments in June to text his principals. So that is
nice.
fantastic. Thank you, Hal.
Thank you, Hal. I appreciate it. I don't even know Hal, but Hal, I'm going to reach out to you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Hal is dope. But if I could jump on and say like one thing before we leave, actually 2 things real quick. Okay, so the first one is check out the EduMatch Connect app. If you are an iPhone user, it is now in the App Store. Check out EduMatch Connect and look for our logo. And the second thing, this is a teaser because it has not yet dropped, but I can now make this announcement that EduMatch has been selected by Google to help pilot the Google for Education AI sessions. So we are looking to train 1,000 teachers. So there's going to be a lot of live series coming up. So look out for that. Sign up because you'll get badged. You'll be able to put it on LinkedIn. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on with that, and it will help you level up your AI use.
Sounds good. Well, thank you. I learned something new, and I work for EduMatch.
Oh, we definitely got to talk.
Well, I'll make sure to send you folks, all the panelists, a nice wrap-up email, a recap with the contact info if you want to keep in touch. Thanks again. This is EduMatch Connect. I hope to see you guys next month. Have a good one.